And so we're live, I assume?
We're live now.
Oh, cool. So there's people watching us, potentially. Probably not. Nobody watches this.
I'm watching. And we are live, so.
All right. Let me pull up my notes so I can pretend like I know what I'm doing. All right. Welcome to another exciting episode of Nerds from Nowhere. I'm your nerd host, Devin.
And I'm your nerd host, Joe.
All right. With us, we have a very special guest. We have Jonathan London from Geekscape podcast. Jonathan is a filmmaker, a screenwriter, obviously a podcaster, because I just said that, and a very geeky, nerdy type person. I hope he's okay with me calling him a nerd.
No, absolutely.
Awesome. So, he's also a film teacher.
Yeah. I taught film today.
Yeah.
I teach 2 classes a week.
Awesome. So, and probably other things, but that's what I know about Jonathan personally. So,
I think we've covered it pretty well.
All right.
Welcome to Nerds from Nowhere.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Jonathan.
Thank you, guys.
So, now, I personally love your podcast. I can't say I don't have a ton of time to listen to podcasts as much as I love making them, but I've listened to 4 or 5 episodes, and they are fantastic.
Thank you.
One of those.
Well, whenever you want to catch up, we have 12 years worth.
Yeah.
Wow. You've been at it.
There's a lot of them.
There are a lot, and it just kind of happened. It was like, I did college radio, and when I was growing up, I idolized David Letterman, and I would really always watch Greg Kinnear. I watched Greg Kinnear on Talk Soup.
Okay.
And remember that, and then I guess when it was on E, and I think E only had like 2 shows. They had Talk Soup, and they had like their news show, and Greg Kinnear was the host of Talk Soup, and I just was like idolized he and Letterman, and then Conan when Conan went to late night, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. When I went to undergrad, I was so focused on college radio that like everything else I just had blinders on, including a social life. Like it was all about college radio, and then but nobody would come on my show. So I would start interviewing people who weren't there. I would start making, I would make up characters and like interview them. And in the course of doing that, we developed storylines. My co-host Kevin and I developed storylines, and those started turning into like our first short films. And then we just kept going, and that's what led me to film school. And so podcasting, I definitely missed that radio stuff. I definitely missed the immediacy of radio because it takes so long to make a film, even a short. Sometimes it takes a while to get it in front of an audience and have that response. Mm-hmm. So the creative process could be really I think it's just a massive insecurity that I've got, where it's like I got to know if they like it or not, and I've got to have some feedback. And I think podcasting is kind of the perfect medium for me, loving radio and loving talking to people and storytelling. That it just kind of hits that sweet spot, and I don't care if like 10 people listen or thousands of people listen. I need to talk to storytellers, and I need to like scratch that itch of why we tell stories. So if you want to listen to Geekscape, it's like writers, comedians, actors, directors, video game people, comic book people, movie people, TV people, and sometimes just our friends, and we talk about stories. And that's our obsession.
That's awesome.
That sounds really great. Over the years, who are some of your favorite guests that you've had on your show?
I liked having Simon Pegg on the show because he was incredibly sincere, and he's everything that you'd imagine he was. Simon was in the process of doing his autobiography. He was promoting his autobiography, which was incredible, and it was just a really heartfelt book, and so we became friends, and he was gracious enough to be in our documentary Doc of the Dead. So Simon would definitely be one of the highlights. But just recently, a few months ago, I had Dean Devlin on the show, and I was really nervous because I didn't know Dean beyond the fact that he had done the Roland Emmerich movies and produced the Roland Emmerich movies, and he'd been critically, the critics hadn't been nice to him. And also what I liked about Dean was that he was an independent. So even though he'd done all this studio stuff and had a deal at TNT to do stuff like The Librarians, which you guys may watch, and shows like that, he was still incredibly independent and runs his company, Electric Entertainment, like an independent film company. And so going over there to his office, I immediately looked for something in the office to kind of break the ice, and he had the helmet from Phantom of the Park, Phantom of the Paradise, the Brian De Palma movie, and it's just such a cool, iconic helmet, and he loves that movie. And so we started talking about that, and we got into talking about his career. And what I liked about it was there was no Hollywood BS. There was no Hollywood fakeness to it. And sometimes I'll check out on a guest if I feel like they aren't being sincere. And I've gone right at guests worrying that they're going to be insincere. Chris Hardwick was one who, if you listen to that Chris Hardwick interview, within 5 minutes, I aimed right at his stories of alcoholism, because I didn't want somebody to fall in. I didn't want Chris to fall into the type 5 or any of the stand-up stuff. I wanted to talk to Chris, and he was nice enough and sincere enough, and that he did it. I really only know Chris in passing, so I really can't comment on all the stuff that's happened to him recently. But on that show, I respected the fact that he knew I was going for the big stuff. I don't do a gotcha show where I'm like, I gotcha. So I really respected the fact that he took the question seriously. And so going back to Dean, I was blown away by how candid he was in saying things like that Godzilla was a mistake, that he shouldn't have done it, because he had talked Roland Emmerich into directing it, because he was a Godzilla fan, but Roland wasn't and never connected to the material. And then Dean talking about Geostorm, which was a recent movie he made. And he's like, yeah, I made it in the studio system, and I shouldn't have gone back, and I made mistakes. And it's not often that people in this town or in these industries admit mistakes, because sometimes it's a death knell for a creator in Hollywood to be connected to a mistake, right? If you have a bomb, you're done,
right?
And so for him to be candid with me and just be like, "Hey, these are the mistakes I made, incredibly valuable to me as a storyteller myself," and then he just had that kind of confidence to be like, "Hey, mistakes are where you grow." I was blown away by it. And so I don't know. I mean, guys, I've done almost weekly show for 12 years. There's so many good ones. I mean, Felicia Day within the first year was on our show, and wow. I think I freaked her out. We were one of Kevin Smith's first. Kevin Smith had never been on a podcast, and he's like, he didn't know what it was. He downloaded the show, and he came on and realized very quickly that he didn't have to do college tours anymore, that he could just start a podcast network and reach that audience. And so he had his podcast network up within a year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. Totally crazy.
What an amazing thing to be involved with, right in the middle of all that. When somebody Kevin Smith learned what podcasts were from being on my show. That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
And he said it on Twitter a few years ago, and I was like, oh, the mentions started blowing up, and I was like, oh, that's very nice of him. Yeah. Because he could have very easily been like, I invented the wheel, because he's Kevin, and that's not what he's like. Kevin's really cool, but no one would have thought twice if he hadn't said anything,
right?
And he was gracious enough to do it. If there's one thing that I think that I don't think that podcasting is a medium I've kept up with very easily. I think I kind of did my show in my little room, and I did that show forever the way I wanted to do the show, just in my own autonomy. And I think that I've missed so many trends we were on video long past the need of being on video, like downloadable video. Like you'd watch it on your phone. Like you used to watch those on when like those video iPods. But like years after those are gone, I'm still doing it. Like people are watching on their phone, but not on YouTube. Like I'm not doing YouTube for some reason, which is not smart. Twitch, I'm not doing live because I'm not on a schedule. So like there are a lot of trends that have come and gone that I've missed out on, and it's just because I've just kept my head down and just been like, I just like talking to people. I just like talking to people.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I just kind of like doing the show I do.
We don't even know what we're doing, so we can't insult you. We're like, we're gonna try doing this, and yeah, we don't know how to do it.
We've been learning as we go. It's been good.
Yeah, so yeah, no, it's a process. Everything is it's a game of inches, and I think you hear about the podcasts or the shows that blow up really quickly, and some of them just have really brilliant concepts. I'm like, oh, that's such a smart concept. And someone on Podcast Movement posted that poll, and I remember going to Podcast Movement last summer, and everyone being like, I've been doing a podcast for a long time, and I was like, oh wow, how long? And they're like 3 years, and I'm like, what? Did you ever have to edit your own RSS feed? Like go into the code and update your own RSS feed with like the HTML? Because like, homie, don't talk to me. It's like I realize now that like podcasting may have been around, I don't know, but like maybe 3 years at most before I hopped into it. And but somebody at Podcast Movement on the Podcast Movement Facebook page posted some chart or some percentage that he had discovered, and the percentage was how many people listen to interview shows. And guilty as charged, I do an interview show. It's what I grew up wanting to do. It's what I'm doing now. And it was like, it wasn't good. It was something like only 18 or maybe as much as 28% of the podcast audience listens to interview shows. We are not in the majority. Most people listen to stuff like true crime or storytelling shows. Yeah. And that stuff is great. It's super resource intensive. I think it's fantastic. It's very skilled, but again, like, it's not the show I want to do. I want to do a real-time conversation with people so that I can really get to know them.
Right.
And that connection is important to me. But I read that percentage and I was like, dude, is there something new that you can do? Is there some way you can shift it? And I don't know. I just want to be happy, and I just want to make a show that makes me happy, and that's all I do. And I just don't think there's something else I can do with the show beyond sit down across from somebody and ask them why they tell stories. That's like my favorite thing ever.
And at the end of the day, if you're having fun, your listeners are. That's if you enjoy it, the people who listen are going to enjoy it. And I think that's what you have to focus on is making sure that you still enjoy it.
Yeah, if you find people fascinating, hopefully I've brought you some people you find fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. I really do. I think your podcast is great.
Thank you. And sorry that I had a cold when I interviewed Udo Kier. Because I wanted to do so many Blade impersonations. He was like the lead vampire from Blade, who like goes up to Steven Dorff's character, is like, "You bore me, Frost," and like kills him. It's like he plays a bad vampire in like half the movies he's in. And I just wanted to like sit down across from him and be like, "He makes the weapons I use." Like I just wanted to do Blade, and I couldn't because I had a cold. My voice, if you listen to the episode, like my voice is so shot, and I had all these Blade one-liners, and I couldn't do one.
Couldn't even take them off the shelf.
And I was like, no, this stinks. Hopefully I have Udo back on the show, or I put him in a movie or something, and I can be like, hey man, here are my Blade one-liners, and he could just walk away. There have been many awkward moments.
Just sit down across from him, just give him all your one-liners, and then show him at the door. Thanks for coming.
Some blank blanks just love roller skating uphill. Or is it ice skating? It's ice skating uphill. Gotta hand it to Blade. They had some great lines. David Goyer wrote some ridiculous lines in that script.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen those movies in forever.
You'll never yet. They're fun. They're fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was hoping to hear about your newest film project.
Oh, so I have a short film that I'm producing with my friend Heidi. And Heidi runs a company called Dweeb Darlings. And one thing over the course of 12 years of building a brand like Geekscape, where we have a ton of other podcasts. We have a horror podcast. We have a video game podcast. We have a couple video game podcasts. We have an Overwatch podcast. We have a Disney podcast. We just have we started, like, the audience started making their own podcasts now. And Matt Kelly, who's one of the most vocal members of the audience, is now our podcast manager. And so he manages all the different podcasts we have. And one thing that's great is that we have this network and we've had a lot of audience be active. One thing that I'm not proud of, and I don't know how to avoid it, because I'm just trying to figure out ways to collaborate, is that the majority of our audience is very male, and so I've been looking for active collaborators on the female side of things. And Heidi has a company called Dweeb Darlings, which is very female. It's female filmmakers and collaborators. And Heidi had this web series called Stalking LeVar that had 2 seasons. And the first season's pretty good. The second season's really good. And you watch the second season on the web, and it did not feel like, and it's a very female story. It's a woman who has misplaced the thing that she's looking for, and like in the case of Heidi's character, she's looking for, like, her father leaves at a very early age, and she's always looking to replace that role in her life. And Heidi is a legit Star Trek fan.
Okay.
Huge Star Trek fan. We went to the Star Trek convention in Vegas last year, and like Star Trek is, in like Doctor Who, those are, in Harry Potter, those are my 3 weaknesses. Like, because people think that I'm a ringer when it comes to trivia night, and people are like, "Oh, Jonathan knows all that stuff. Let's take him to trivia night." And the second I hit Star Trek, Harry Potter, or Doctor Who, I can't do it. Like, I just don't know enough. And I went to this Star Trek convention with Heidi, and she knew everybody. She knows everybody who's a guest star, and like all these obscure Star Trek Next Generation episodes, and they had like 4 lines, but she knows them by name, and they're friends. And Heidi's just really connected, and she's introducing me to, LeVar Burton, and she's like introducing me to all these different actors, and I'm like, what? This is nuts. So she had this character in her series, Stalking LeVar, who had like obsessed about LeVar Burton as almost a father figure. Because let's face it, LeVar Burton taught you to read with Reading Rainbow. Yeah. LeVar Burton is the guy who keeps the ship together and keeps the family together on Star Trek Next Generation. And when anything goes wrong on the Enterprise, Geordi's the one who fixes it. Mm-hmm. And so it was I was like, oh, that's a pretty nice, tight story. I think that's really smart, and it's got a niche in the Star Trek fans, and it's also got like a strong female with a goal. And so she made the second season, and when I saw that the second season was really good, but it for some reason I didn't think it was working on the web. Like, I wanted those numbers to be huge. I wanted that series to be like hot. I wanted to go to. I wanted somebody to see it in television and be like, "Hey, let's bring this to HBO or something." And so Heidi had been talking about doing a 3rd season for some way to finish out the story of this woman finding either LeVar Burton or the resolution within herself that she doesn't need this person, and that she's enough on her own. And I just suggested making a short film because, not that I'd lost faith in the web. I just lost. It's just, there's so much noise on the web, and when you make something like a film, you suddenly have to go through a couple gatekeepers to find an audience, and there's quality control, and you watch some of the stuff that hits on the web, and it almost feels scattershot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think if you have a nice short, you have a little bit of control over things like quality, finding an audience that finds it respectable. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like if we shoot it to look like it belongs on a bigger screen, it's going to have some quality that when you land that in front of somebody in the industry, which is important to Heidi and I, because she's a really good actress, and that's something that people need to discover. I'm a pretty good director, I think, and that's something that people need to discover. And so you just want to cut some of the chaff off, and you just want to cut away from some of the web and do it. The problem is there's also distribution, and the web makes it really easy to distribute, but it also turns into that noise problem. Like, you jumped into the pool with a lot of other people. It's hard to swim apart from them. And that was the goal of the short film. So right now we're crowdfunding through Seed and Spark, and we have about 9 days left on our crowdfunding. I'm feeling pretty confident. We're going to tell the story. So I think Geekscape needs it because we need that. We need a little bit of that feminine side to us to make our brand more dynamic. I know I'd like to have it as a director. Because I got asked to do a Witcher short like right after. And here we are going right back into fantasy and genre and dudes being burly and fighting the trolls. It's like the stuff that like I'm trying to get away from. Not get away from it, but like augment with something a little more sensitive.
Right.
And it was like, hey man, you want to do this Witcher short? Fuck yeah, I want to do a Witcher short. You know? I love genre stuff.
Yeah.
But I also really want to do this thing so that it's not just one-sided. You know, you do too much of that stuff, you look up and you're Uwe Boll. You know? Like, let's do Blood Rain 5. And
you want to? I get it. You want to be dynamic. You want to have a range.
Well, the directors I like are the directors like David Gordon Green and Richard Linklater. David Gordon Green can make a movie like Your Highness or Pineapple Express, and then turn around and make a movie like Joe, the movie that he made with Nicolas Cage, where I think he got Nicolas Cage's best performance in the last 20 years, and nobody really saw it, but it was a nice, soft indie movie, and David Gordon Green can do that. He can go and do what's the name of that show? The baseball player, Eastbound and Down, and then he can go and make like a really nice film. Richard Linklater, of course, can go make something like School of Rock, and then he can turn around and make Boyhood. And I'm in awe of that. So I think you need both abilities. And Taika Waititi is a great example of it. Like Thor Ragnarok had so many amazing tone changes, but you see the movie he did, the previous movie that he did, Hunt for the Wilder People, and you see these incredible tone shifts between dramatic and comedic, and that are just amazing. And you're like, damn, how does he do it? And this is how you do it. You don't become like a guy who just makes Witcher shorts. No offense to Witcher shorts. We are so fucking going to a location next week to work on our Witcher short.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Giant troll.
So how can people find your crowdsourcing project?
If you go to seedandspark.com and search for Stocky LeVar, that's the best way to do it. And there's all sorts of cool perks. My brother was a WWE wrestler. He wrestles right now at Lucha Underground on El Rey for Robert Rodriguez. And one of the perks is he'll call and leave you a wrestling promo.
Oh, awesome.
Or he'll video a wrestling promo for you. Like, I would like to push him towards doing something very Ultimate Warrior-ish. And, you know, Heidi will read you a bedtime story, which is super nice. I don't have any discernible talent, so I'm trying to remember what I would do. Oh, you can guess on the Geekscape podcast. I think I owe somebody a garlic clove. I have to eat a garlic clove while singing a song to them, and that shit is so painful. Heidi has like these really thoughtful, like, perks where it's like, oh, what if we do this really nice thing for someone? And I'm like, what if I jump in an ice bath and like do a Q&A And it's just like, no, nobody wants to see you die on camera, John. I figure I'd already be preserved, so why not? Like all the perks. Like I remember I just wanted to do a bunch of like jackass perks. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, on my finger, and it's like, what? Nobody wants your finger, Jonathan.
You can only have 10 of those.
Yeah, what are you doing? Well, if you start working on the toes, you can really raise some money.
You should give away Blade one-liners.
I'll call and leave a Blade one-liner on your phone. I think you'd have to pay me to do that. I'd have to pay them. I would have to pay them to do that.
I was about to give you some money for that.
We'll leave you Wesley Snipes one-liners for money. I met Wesley Snipes about 2 years ago. I was in. I'm part of this running group, this free running group, and we like to do like these stunt runs every now and then to try to like visibility recruitment. It's just fun. Like we'll run through like a mall, and it's free fitness, so all of our workouts are free. So we're always trying to promote like a healthier free fitness lifestyle. And so we usually start our runs like right outside like a public place, like an outdoor mall, like the Grove here in Los Angeles, and we'll run through like the Nordstroms, and then we'll run through the mall, and we'll like make a lot of noise and be like, hey, and then we'll run through the neighborhoods, and we'll run through like the Los Angeles County Museum, and then we will usually end up in some in like a restaurant or a bar. And we did this 2 years ago, and we show up at this bar, and Wesley Snipes is there with like his entourage.
Okay.
And there's like post-tax evasion Wesley Snipes, and like it's like, he's done Expendables 3, so like this is not Blade Wesley Snipes, right? Blade made $131 million at the box office.
Right.
That wasn't gonna happen. And so I'm sitting there, and like, we have a lot of friends come to the workouts. Like my friend Casper Van Dien would come to the workouts for a long time before he moved to Agora Hills. Super awesome to see somebody who like you grew up watching their movies come to the workouts and kick some ass next to you.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's awesome. And Casper's the nicest dude ever. So I was like, I'm going to invite Wesley Snipes to our runs. And at the time we would run in the Hollywood Bowl. Like we run in the Hollywood Bowl, which is like a lot of steps, really hard, but it's a great workout. And I thought Wesley might be into it. So I go, hey man, he goes, what's all this about? Because he just saw like all these like 60 sweaty people just enter this restaurant, this bar, and they're hanging out, and he's like, what's all this about? And I go, oh yeah, we're part of this free fitness group that meets, the Hollywood Bowl and runs the stairs and runs around and just kind of makes some noise, but it's all free, it's all fun, and I think you'd love it, man. You should come and work out with us. He goes, oh man, I don't do that anymore, man. I don't work out like that. And I go, no, it's like I just saw you in Expendables 3, and it looked like you were pretty badass. Like, it looked like you could really hold your own, man. You looked fit. And he goes, the only thing I was working out in Expendables 3 was a paycheck. I was like, okay, got it. Bye. He doesn't want to run around with us.
That's awesome.
He's like, you guys ruined my drinking experience. Go away. Annoying. We're all running around in spandex and like fluorescent colors. Go away.
Maybe if you got him closer to the tax evasion thing, he'd be into it.
So it's free? Can you run from the feds?
Yeah.
Nice guy. Super nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
Wesley,
I'm sure.
if you're listening to the Nerds from Nowhere, invitation's still good.
Oh yeah. Hey, come on our show.
Come on the show.
Don't run. So
Yeah, we definitely don't run.
The next workout is gonna be ice skating uphill. We'll do a Blade themed workout. We have to like jump over vampires and stuff. Do like bad roundhouse kicks while Matrixy music plays. And to the credit, Blade was before Matrix and did the trench coats and did the techno and did all that stuff before the Matrix. You hearing me, Wachowski siblings? We know what you did. We know what you did. Yeah. The argument I think previously was that the Matrix was just that that Vertigo book, The Invisibles, done as a movie, but we know you also took a lot of Blade.
I had never thought of it. Got a good point.
Hey, hell yeah, I got a good point. Welcome to Geekscape. We go deep.
That's right.
We get into it. We're like, this isn't right. Wachowski brothers got, man, they shouldn't have got done those last 2 Matrix movies. Those weren't that good.
They weren't.
They weren't.
I'll swear by Speed Racer.
Oh yeah.
Speed Racer is the Mario Kart movie we never got.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Like, that movie was crazy.
It was.
That movie was.
But it was so different than Matrix 2 and 3, which are just like Matrix 1, but by the end of 1, he's basically God.
Right.
So there was really no tension.
Well,
Those
where do you
movies.
go from there?
No, you have, like, Trinity has to be in danger, like, for the entirety of the next 2 movies, and that really just makes Trinity's character lame.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, you can't, she's not Lois Lane. You know what I mean? She's not Metropolis. I love Superman, though. So, like, whenever somebody's like, oh, that character's uninteresting, he's too powerful, I'm like, Superman has a billion weaknesses. They're called us. Yeah. He's incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
I love you. You're my best friend. Thank you.
Oh, for saying that?
Yeah.
I was dressing somebody down in a Batman shirt today because I can't help it. And I was like, let me get this straight. Dude's a billionaire, but he has to steal from his publicly traded company. He embezzles from it to build tanks instead of just using his $1 billion to repair the infrastructure of his city. And he throws people into Arkham Asylum, which is basically a revolving door to J.C. Penney's at this point. And just so he can hit him again a month later. Like, he's not a hero. He's a psychopath who is like, oh, I'm going to go punch people once at a time in the face instead of actually clean up my city. There's a reason Gotham City looks like a toilet. Mm-hmm. It's because he's a sociopathic, rage-driven, S&M addicted weirdo who would rather just punch people in the face and actually get down to the nitty-gritty of structurally fixing the problem of Gotham City.
Yeah, he needs to take a page out of the CW's Oliver Queen's book and get into politics, fix things.
Yeah, just I think he's too dumb. I think he's too angry. Effective. See, the thing is, Oliver's not angry. Oliver is like, you know, like smart alecky, and you know, especially in the comics, like he's so smart alecky. He always has like good one-liners, you know, and he's very loose. And Batman is just so uptight and just highly strung that it's like, could you imagine that guy in politics? He'd be Trump. Because he also has mental illness.
He does. He's very mentally ill.
We already have a Batman in there. He's like, money will solve everything. No, it won't, dude. You're an angry, mean, but probably racist human being. I'm not gonna say Batman's racist, but it took a while for there to be a Black Robin. Just saying.
It did. It took a long while.
It took a long while.
That's
like,
fair.
What? You wanted to kill a couple of white kids first? Quit killing sidekicks.
Yeah,
you horrible human being.
Also, why were all of his sidekicks like 14-year-old boys?
You know why.
Yeah. We don't even have to go there. Everyone knows.
You told me this was a family-friendly show.
Yeah, Devin.
I didn't. I just asked a question. I'm letting people's minds go wild. That's if they want to jump to conclusions, that's up to them.
Go ahead and put on these skimpy shorts. I'm going to be over here in this tight leather. It's so completely inappropriate.
Terribly so.
I just want realism in my comics. I don't want any realism in my comics. Thanks.
Well, you know, and that's the best part. You know, getting back to Superman a little bit. That's the best part about Superman, is that he is so powerful. So every Superman comic, every Superman story that's good is all about. It's all character driven. It's all about being an example, and him making those choices that literally nobody on Earth today, if they had the power of Superman, would make the choices that Superman makes. They would be.
I'd like to think that we would.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind, like, the alternative is turning us into his food source. So, like, yeah, I think that that's the drawbacks of the Snyder movies, is that, like, which also let's not, Nolan is not innocent from that, because he had a hand in Man of Steel, and I don't, as a Goyer, man, stick with Blade. No, and I think that, like, the only way that you can keep that morally ambiguous tone is with Batman, because Batman can be morally ambiguous. He can have questions about what the right thing is, and then continue to not do it. But when Clark leaves the Kent farm, he is morally clear and pure. It might get complicated. He might have a problem saving an earthquake versus a tsunami versus a Mongol trying to enslave us. Brainiac, Mxyzptlk, all these villains mess with his brain, and they mess with his moral code. But he is so clear, and I think that's the drawback of Man of Steel, is that he's morally ambiguous, and Superman shouldn't be morally ambiguous. Clark can be morally ambiguous on the farm, but Jonathan sets him straight, and that's also why Jonathan has to die of a heart attack. He can't be killed in, like, a hurricane or something. Like, nothing physical that Clark can stop. Clark would have stopped it, but
right.
But it's a massive metaphor that went missed, that Jonathan Kent dies of a heart attack.
Yeah,
it's the one thing that Clark can't stop, and the one thing that, like, Jonathan represents, and it's a huge. I mean, that's why he's such a great character, and he needs to be established cleanly, because all the other DC characters are shades of him. Batman being the most villain-like, but Diana is like a nascent superhero. She comes from an isolated island, and she doesn't quite know the world of man, and she needs Clark to show that to her, and then Bruce to show her the darker side of it, which is why that trio is so important. And I mean, just missed opportunity over missed opportunity on the DC Cinematic Universe, because they were seduced by the realism of the Dark Knight and the box office of the Dark Knight. Perhaps, by my theory, because Dark Knight was such a success, but it set off the DC Entertainment Universe in like the wrong foot, and it derailed 2 Spider-Man movies at Sony. Like, those Andrew Garfield movies are completely educated by the Dark Knight success, to the point of making Peter Parker a loner who has lost his parents. And I'm like, that's Batman. And Peter Parker has parents that he loves very much, and that love him very much, and they just happen to be his aunt and uncle. We don't need a mystery with the parents. We don't need them disappearing in the middle of the night, and we don't need him to be a skateboarding loner. That's Batman. And I think that the Dark Knight box office is huge, and it's such a success, and the calling card for comic movies as it is, still has too much influence on the DC Cinematic Universe. Meanwhile, Marvel is cutting loose and being like, hey, we're having fun. These are comics. We're having fun. And it doesn't mean you can't tell serious stories.
Right. Yeah. And I've had a couple of friends who say that, the problem is DC isn't campy enough because their characters are campy.
That's not the word.
Yeah, I'm like, that's wrong. The problem is DC doesn't know what their characters are, the movies. They completely missed the point.
These are great characters.
Yeah, like they completely missed it, like you've been saying. With Superman, they fundamentally misunderstood who Superman was supposed to be right from the get-go.
And he is the cornerstone.
Yeah. And every other character, they've just completely misunderstood what they were supposed to be doing in the film world. They wanted to make Batman again with every single one of their characters, and not all of their characters are Batman. No,
there's one character named Batman, and he's a bad character. he's overdone, he's lame, and it's like enough with Batman. No more Batman, please. We're good without Batman. You took Arrow, you turned him into Batman. Stop with the Batman. Mm-hmm. No more Batman. And I thought the Justice League course correction was a good one. I would love for DC, and I don't think I've heard that they were not, but I would love for them to have the confidence to continue through it, because like the second half of Justice League is about as well course corrected as you can ask for.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty fascinating movie to watch, because you're just watching this entire like shift in a enormous transmedia property over the course of like 2 hours. You're just seeing this complete course correction, and it's a tale of two halves. The first half just feels like a bad animated movie where like Batman's chasing parademons and you don't know why, because the movie assumes you saw the movie before it. So the inciting incident didn't even happen in the film. The inciting incident should have been Steppenwolf coming to Earth, but that doesn't happen until like 20 minutes in, and Batman's chasing parademons and pinning them to the walls, and you don't know what the hell is happening. You realize you had to watch the first two movies, but you shouldn't assume that ever. That was I think that's why Black Panther started off pretty slow, in my opinion, was that the inciting incident happened in Civil War.
Okay.
With the death of his father and Claw, and I was like, okay, well, the first half of this movie just kind of feels like the first 5 minutes of Coming to America for a while. It's like, look at all this glorious shit. And I was like, well, okay. It's like Thor landing in Asgard mixed with Coming to America. My prince. And I was like, okay, my prince. And it's like, and then all of a sudden, like, you get shaken free of that stuff. But it took Killmonger to throw you off a cliff to do it. And now we're cooking with gas, which was like the kick-ass part of Black Panther. Yeah. And then with Justice League, you need Superman.
Yeah.
And he needs to be Superman.
Yeah.
And when he showed up and he was Superman, all the dominoes lined up.
Right. That, I would agree. Like, that was my favorite part of Justice League. Once Superman was actually Superman, I was like, these movies can be saved.
And those characters can be clear.
Yeah.
It's like, now these characters are clear to me. Because he has to be clear. Batman is too much of an ambiguity to define other characters against. Because he's so reserved and he keeps to himself. He doesn't tell you what you should be doing because he has nothing but secrets. Oh, I've got so many secrets. But Supes is the one who's like, we should be doing this. Whether or not you agree with him from that point is up to the character.
Right.
But he should at least be the lightning rod for what a superhero is.
Right.
And that's what he is in the DC universe. And if you don't get that right, you don't have an oar for whatever ship you're trying to row, and you're done.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of Hot Topic fans who'll probably disagree with me. Like, no, but what about Leto's Joker? I bought my outfit from Hot Topic. Don't say that.
I could listen to you talk about movies forever.
Welcome to Geekscape.
Yeah, I need to.
Could you do it for 12 years?
I'll never get caught up.
Good. You shouldn't.
I will be caught up by tomorrow morning. I will listen to 12 years worth of podcasting.
Don't do it. There's some bad episodes.
That would be amazing.
I don't know. Are there bad episodes? Yeah. I think I was a jerk for a long time. I was listening to I think for a long time I thought that there was a need to be shocking or a need to be crass. And I think that I substituted that for substance or being informative or being connective is like sort of this need to like wake up an audience and be like, you know, I think it hurt the show a lot that I was like, you know what I mean? Because I think the internet rewards a lot of that behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The internet rewards a lot of bad behavior where you can be troll-like and mean. And I don't think I was troll-like, but I definitely would start the show not thinking about my guest or conversation and be thinking about where I can get mine in. Mm-hmm. And and I think that it led to years of very bad podcasting, where I would tease people, ribbing like, oh, it's a roast. Not everybody wants a roast.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think so I think there was a lot of Geekscape where I was still trying to find out what was effective and what worked. And I'm super happy with what Geekscape's done in the last year and a half, because the numbers have gone up and they've steadily climbed back to where I think that they should be. And it's simply just been, it's only taking me a decade to figure out. But it's like, this is people just want a good conversation with somebody they're interested in.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a dancing monkey, London. You don't need to be standing there with a funny jab or joke. You don't need to be Howard Stern. You don't need, you know what I mean? Like, just they're the star of it. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
I think the criticism of Johnny Carson was that his and Andy Kaufman made fun of it, was that his desk was always a little bit high. His seat on his desk was always a little bit higher than his guests. And it's like, and I just remind myself, like, dude, the guest. At least that's what I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
In another 12 years, I might say something different. I hope I'm saying anything.
I'm looking forward to.
Prison?
To
The prison years?
yeah. The prison.
That's awesome, though. No, just hearing you say that, it reminded me that I saw on your Facebook page you have a shirt that says "Don't hate, create," and that made me all happy inside.
I think it's important. I've wanted to make that shirt for a couple of years, and we finally got the design right. And I think it came at like a really crucial time, and we just reordered shirts because we were selling out of those. And I think my next goal is to figure out how to scale that message, because it just came out of frustration that we have so many people online who will spend so much creativity and energy being horrible to each other and just being hateful and troll-like, and you have the incels, and you have the trolls, and you have, the Proud Boys, and you have people who are just hateful, and they direct it towards women, they direct it towards minorities, they direct it towards each other, and we have this culture of divisiveness, which I think is just programmed BS. I don't think it's like you have a country that's supposed to be, that's like been defined as red versus blue, black versus white, and it simplifies into a horse race something that cannot be simplified, in that we have so many similarities, and people aren't that different from each other, and we have our core needs, and that being angry and being hateful towards each other is just such an easy default that we need to change the default. And when you wake up, and I think that a lot of it is that we've been barraged by the noise of mass media. When we made Doc of the Dead a couple of years ago, the zombie documentary, what fascinated me the most was post 9/11, the post 9/11 mentality of survival, where we were like, we just been barraged by so much mass media and high speed information that we were going to die. We wake up every morning and there's another war in the Middle East, there's another tsunami, there's another Katrina, there's another 9/11, there's another attack in London, and we were forced to share this reality that we're gonna die. And we started thinking about survival, but we couldn't think of survival in a literal sense. Nobody went and got a bug out bag and figured out a plan, or even got a flu shot. We had to watch The Walking Dead and be like, oh, what would happen if a zombie came after me? This fictitious creature, and it like allowed us to think about something that we were going through as a culture. And now we have this really hostile environment where we are being told that we're divided repeatedly. You're either Trump or you're not Trump. You're either foreign or you're American. You're either white or you're black. You either stand for the national anthem or you kneel for the national anthem. You have all these complicated issues, and they've all been watered down to a binary 1 and 0 horse race of you and other. And it's caused us to wake up with this default hostility just to get through the day. And it creates triggers, and it creates people getting horrible with each other, and we end up expending our energy just to get through the day.
Yeah.
And being mean to each other, and it's horrid. You're going to run a woman off of Instagram because of a character she played in a movie?
Yeah.
Right.
Where do you get off?
Yeah.
Why don't you take that energy that you're using to call her terrible names and write a book, write a comic book, draw a picture? It doesn't even have to be good. Most art isn't good. Most film isn't good. Most TV isn't good. Most comics aren't good. None of this stuff, for the most part, is good, but it's there. And I will take a million Uwe Bolls, who's a super positive dude and is all about making stuff, over somebody who's going to be racist or xenophobic or sexist against anybody, because you're putting something out in the world that we don't really need, and it's an echo chamber for this divisiveness and this hostility that is only going to end really badly. Yeah. You know, you start to represent the crowd, and guess what happens? The crowd becomes the victim. You take these problems that are individual problems, and you start to make them, you start to equate them with a crowd. And the sad fact is, we have not had more violent crimes in this country. We've had more mass shootings, and we have stopped being able to equate differences with individuals with differences with what those individuals represent. So our solutions come not against the individual, our solutions come against what the individual represents, be them a woman, a black person, a school clique, my entire grade, a police force. It's horrid. Yeah. We've stopped being able to delineate where this stuff is coming from. It's just noise.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's why it's so refreshing when you do find a source in the media or anywhere, anybody that has a message with the opposite, of acceptance and of positivity. It's so refreshing and so uplifting.
I don't want to die.
To be around that.
I don't want to die, Joe. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I don't want to die. I don't want to walk into a supermarket and get gunned down. I don't want to. I teach at a school. I don't want to get gunned down. I don't want somebody to road rage at me. We all need to de-escalate.
Yeah.
And I don't want somebody finding my address on the internet and coming at me the way that they published Gamergate. Remember that?
Yeah.
When they were publishing those girls' home addresses online, Felicia Day checked out of the internet because people were publishing her stuff online. She went and secretly had a kid.
Yeah.
It's like we shouldn't be living like that with this default hostility. Mm-hmm. We should be living. The internet was supposed to be this thing that brought us all together and made us smarter. It was supposed to be this infinite resource. Instead, it's turned us into a lonely crowd where we are individuals, and the only way to keep that individuality is to keep a hostility. And I don't think it's true. I think if you want your individuality, if you really want to scream and shout, make something, because that's the way it's always worked.
Yeah.
It's insane to me. I'm just espousing now. You guys want to talk about Batman? I'm glad you like that shirt, man. If it's the one thing that people think about when they think of Geekscape, then that's what I want. I want to find a way to scale that message, not for profit. Just scale the message. Just like, don't hate, create. It's an easy alternative to what people are about to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's one of the most important messages I think that we could share. So we're happy to help. We want to get that word out too.
Yeah, thanks, man. I love it. I think that's brilliant. We're all about positive.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to die. We don't want to die, man. And I think that if there's one thing to be said about something like Trump, igniting things like nationalism and people in the way you treat people who are different, and just would you ever think that America would turn away immigrants, legal or illegal? Give us your sick, your poor, and if there's anything that can be positively taken from it, it's this new conversation about mental illness, which there's no way he would ever admit to, but that's a Dunning-Kruger problem. It's not ours. And it's like this new conversation about mental illness and depression and mental wellness is something that is new. And we weren't talking about that stuff 5 years. And now you have NBA players talking about it. This week on ESPN, there's a 5-part series just on the NBA players dealing with mental wellness. We can't even talk about, we shouldn't talk about it as mental illness. It's mental health and mental wellness. And that's a conversation we weren't having 5 years ago. So I think there's a kernel of good that can be watered and grown into something that comes out of any negative thing. And that might be what happens here, like it's hard. Positivity is hard, but it's worth way more than the default. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Well, it's like it's pearls, right? We're surrounded by all of that hate, and I don't think the sad thing is it's not the majority of people. It's just what you hear. It's the loudest people are the negative people, and so you find that positivity, you find that outlet. You find that creative thing that you can put out there, and it means something. It means something to a lot of people. I think if we only ever reached one person and helped them have a better day, I think we've done something worth doing.
Well, I don't think blunt force works. And here's one thing that I worry about with people's behavior online is that you only follow the people that agree with you, and your followers are only people who agree with you. So you only end up really in this echo chamber by yourself. Or versions of yourself. So it's a lot of people behind you being like, yeah, and you're behind somebody else being like, yeah. And so you're going to the opposition and it's just, yeah. And so you're in this echo chamber that's just really escalating other echo chambers versus the counter echo chambers. But I don't think, like what you just said, Joe, is that's not how you turn the tide.
Yeah.
Going at somebody with a blunt force object is only going to result, I know this is a nerd, the equal opposite reaction. It's only going to push them into the other direction. Yeah. And not only that, but if I'm rude to somebody who disagrees with me, it's only going to reinforce their confirmation bias of, see, that person's nothing like me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So fighting online, if you find somebody who disagrees with you online and it's like, see, I knew he wouldn't agree with me. That's the problem. They're too different. There's no resolution. And I think when you de-escalate it and creating something that you can share is a great way to de-escalate. How many people on both sides of the aisle you think loved Infinity War?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how many people you think Yeah. How many people on both sides of the aisle you think hated Justice League? I mean, just kidding. But how many? The three that saw it. No. But creating things creates this shared existence because we really are only in control of the people next to us, right? Like a stranger probably isn't going to see a whole lot, in my opinion. But a friend or a family member, you just throw something into the pond hoping that the ripples will reach them. But ripples die out and they need to be repeated and they need to be pushed by other people. And then before you know it, you can start something and hopefully it gets to where you need it to go. But it's about course correction. Mm-hmm. And so if somebody comes, and I like to put on most of my posts public, especially political ones or things like that, because you always get some friend of a friend like, hey man, sorry about my cousin. You always get like a message like, hey man, my uncle, sorry you commented on your thing. But I always try and treat those people with a lot of kindness and understanding because, like, at the end of the day, it's not about the hot topic issues of race and abortion and LGBTQ. It's about, do I have a roof over my head? Can I pay for myself if I get sick? Can I do this for my family? Can I feed them? And when you just tear things down to just those core human needs, we're all pretty much screwed. No, we're all pretty much having this shared need. That's a daily need, and we're all kind of fighting for it. We have different views of it, but it's when we get wrapped up with what we think other people should be doing that's the problem. And I think hugs are going to solve this thing. And I may be naive as shit. I might get. Oh, sorry. I know this is a kid thing.
But it's okay. The family get it in post.
But I know I could be totally naive on this one. And I might get stabbed for giving somebody a hug. But I think a hug will send a much better message than a push or a punch.
Yeah.
And you just course correct that person. Help me understand where you're coming from. Ask them to sit where you're standing and stand where they're standing and see things from where they are. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm gonna get stabbed. Maybe I'm like River Phoenix at the end of Stand By Me, and I'm just gonna fade away because I got knifed in some bar. Man, I got so fired up I cursed. I'm so sorry, guys.
Hey,
you're
okay.
good.
It's a message worth getting out there, and I'm glad you're here to share it with us and with our listeners.
The Mormons will never let me go to a Utah Jazz game in Vivint. All I want to do now is I just want to see a Jazz game in Vivint Smart Home Arena, and they'll never let me in the state.
You'd be surprised.
I think you're still allowed in the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're a forgiving people.
Yeah.
Are you guys Mormons?
I am.
Yeah.
You are?
My family is. Yeah.
I dated a Mormon girl in high school. She would come over and watch Jazz games. And I never picked up the fact that she was attracted to me. Really cool girl. She would come over and this is like the height of Stockton Malone, right? So they were getting a lot of TV games. And I'm in Austin, Texas, and I should have been a Spurs fan or a Rockets fan or a Mavs fan, but I'm stubborn and Stockton Malone. That's what I picked up on when around 90, 91.
Uh-huh.
And I stuck with it. And I'm all about not jumping the bandwagon. That's your team. And one day we're watching this game, and I walk into her car afterwards, and we're talking about, oh man, they won or they lost, whatever. She finally stops me and she goes, you know what? I don't even like the Jazz. And she goes, I like you. And she kissed me, and I was so blown away. I never saw it coming. It was like the ultimate plot twist. But we couldn't hang out because she said she didn't like the Jazz. So, sorry, baby.
Sorry.
That's how it goes.
You shouldn't have said that.
I've known multiple girls who were like, yeah, I prefer Batman over Superman, and I'm just like, you're out. You're out.
She wants a bad boy, and those guys are just gonna jerk them over, and they're gonna end up hurt. Yeah. They'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I was wrong. You didn't think that guy was a bad idea? Dude.
Yeah.
Batman is bad news, and he's in a girl who's in a Batman scares me. I'm like, whoa, point to the daddy issues. That's the thing, Soups doesn't have daddy issues. Jonathan Kent was there for him. Should he have daddy issues? Yeah, his entire planet exploded. Oh, sorry about your parents in Crime Alley. I lost my entire race. Everyone who would ever look like me or be like me. I lost my entire planet. Oh, but sorry about your parents in Crime Alley, you psychopath. It's insane. It's completely insane. Oh, man. I'll make sure that nobody has to live this night again. What?
And yet they constantly do.
Yeah, because you refuse to kill. And Superman is like, oh, I'm sorry, Zod. You said you wouldn't stop. I'm going to have to kill you now. And John Byrne got that right when he wrote that. John Byrne had him kill Zod. And, yeah, Superman kills. But Superman's also punching in a much different weight class. You know, if Batman has a bad day, a bank gets robbed. If Superman has a bad day, Brainiac enslaves us and uses us as food. Like, it's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different weight class. And I mean, Soups could fix Gotham in an hour from orbit. He's like, boop, zzz, zzz, zzz. He's like, how many people does Joker have to kill before Superman fries him from orbit? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. You can still save him. I'll fix Two-Face right now. I'll cut him back in half. You can keep the Harvey Dent part.
Yeah, keep the good half. Yeah.
Hey, look, he's cauterized, Bruce. He's completely dead. I'll give the Penguin his fingers back. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't hate Batman. I'm glad Batman exists.
Yeah.
It allows us to have this conversation. But, man, it just makes no sense that character survived the pulp era. Like, he is such a holdover from like the Shadow Nose and the Phantom and all those pulp era comic characters. He's a detective. Like, he's so pulp, but none of those characters survived.
Right.
And I don't see how he did, other than like a bunch of S&M addicted, like Hot Topic, crow wearing, like kids being like, "Oh, this will take my parents off."
Yeah.
Okay. See where that ends up. Oh, your husband choked you? Didn't see that coming. It's sad, but like, don't pick Batman. The signs are all there.
Love it.
So,
sorry about your Batman audience base, which is gone.
no, you know what? They can handle it. And
They're watching Deadpool 5 times.
they just need to. They'll just go and stare silently off a roof for a while, and they'll be fine.
They're totally cutting themselves. I just want to feel again. But they're doing it with a batarang. It makes no sense.
Oh, I love it. Sorry. That's too funny.
On that note, I'm gonna move us on. I thought maybe we'd talk about our current addictions. Devin, if you want to start us off on what your current addiction is.
Oh, my current addiction. This conversation. I don't know if I have a good one. Come back to me in a second.
Comes back. He's like doing heroin. No, we didn't mean it like that.
I gotta finish this line real fast. No,
A man called El Secoyo from South Utah. What?
Okay, wait. No, I got a good one. That's not a good one, but I've got a current addiction. Cheese. Cheese.
That's like a lifelong thing. If you're talking.
I gotta tell you, man, cheese is a good one.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
No, I'm serious. Cheese is a good one.
Oh, okay.
A bunch of my friends have started to go like vegan, and I'm like, what? Like, I know that I should be eating healthier because I eat a lot of junk, and I think that exercise is like my excuse for eating junk, but it can't be, because I've started to notice that like it ain't working. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just cut back. And the idea of like adding more vegetables to my diet is a necessity. Fruits and vegetables. But I don't know if I could go vegetarian. Vegan just seems like, but cheese.
Yeah.
It's like I'm Wallace and Gromit. Like, I need cheese, man.
I love cheese. I love it so much. I
love cheese.
Yeah, I keep going to the store, and recently I found, and they probably have existed for a while, but I recently discovered you can buy like little snack packs with like individually wrapped like Gouda and Havarti. Oh, love it.
Those ones that come in little wax?
No, like they
have those. Yeah.
But yeah, just like little snack size. I've seen like cheddar ones and stuff, but I recently found Gouda and Havarti ones, and I'm like, oh, this is heaven.
So fancy.
Now I can just be like, I want a little snack of Havarti cheese.
Snap it on a cracker and you're good.
Yeah.
Or just by itself.
Yeah. So I keep buying those, and
That's like the high class version of just taking the easy cheese and just snorting it into your mouth.
Yeah,
which
You know
I
what I mean?
also do.
see, Devin can relate to everybody. The easy cheese people, the people
Yeah.
way up on the hill with their Gouda and their Havarti.
He's like, ooh, some Grey Poupon, sir. And then he's like down at the truck stop or like under the bridge with a bunch of dudes. Like, hey, man, when the cheese is gone, the gas is, you can just snort it.
This sounds exactly like me. There's no bridges in my town.
Dude,
We don't have water here.
I'm totally going to go look for those cheese packets. No way. Vegan is, I don't know, man. Like,
I couldn't do it.
I'm like Jim Gaffigan. I'm a vegetarian, except I eat beef, pork, and chicken.
yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. Growing up in Texas, addicted to barbecue, like, it's tough.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I understand it, man. Like, I understand. It's all about portion control, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'll eat less of that delicious stuff.
Yeah.
I control my portions.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
When we order a pizza, I only eat 3/4 of it.
Yo, a Big Mac just tastes good.
Yeah.
A Big Mac just tastes good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It tastes good.
It's barely even food, but it's delicious.
I don't know. No, it's got more in common with a transformer than anything. Like when you throw the fries in there, it's like you're eating plastic, but like it's so good.
So good. Like McDonald's fries are so good for like 10 minutes. They're amazing, and then they turn into
Oh, you eat them and
complete
your
garbage.
lips start falling apart. There's like blood coming in your mouth because they're so salty. They start to like cut your mouth. You don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's just good.
It's delicious.
And like the thing is, and like the real thing about like losing weight, which is really something I'm starting to think about, is like the first bite is what you're really after because that's the one that brings you that taste.
Yeah.
And your stomach's really only that big. So like why are you eating something more? Why are you eating more than your fist's worth of food at any given time? But like that first when you're hungry, you just want that first taste, right?
Yeah.
Or when you're not hungry, when you just like want like an ice, like a sweet, like a coffee mocha thing, or like a frappuccino or something. You just want that taste, and then you get that taste, but then it's about now it's about the repetition and now you're in, and like it's like if you could just stop yourself after those first few bites, would be in a lot better place. So it's really hard to do, but I had to do like a food meditation where it was like, hey man, after those first few bites, like how much use do you actually keep getting out of that food?
Yeah.
And I start turning into I start turning into freaking Smeagol where I'm like, it's mine.
we all have that we all have that inner golem. Just
you just don't need the food.
Yeah.
But we do it.
So easy to say, so hard to do.
Yeah.
I totally need it. Okay.
We're going to a movie. Like I can't go to a movie without popcorn and a drink.
Yeah.
Part of the religious process. It is the body and the blood of Christ. Like it is. I am here at my place of worship, the movie theater. And I'm going to get popcorn and a drink. It's like if I'm going to go to a basketball game, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a hot dog and a drink. And like it's part of the process. Is my religion. It's part of my process.
Yeah.
Like 3 drinks, a large popcorn, some
heroin, your bag of cheese.
Yeah, my bag of cheese and some heroin and a couple of prostitutes.
So mark that minute. About an hour 14 in, I said another bad one. Sorry, guys. I just got so passionate about food. Joe, what's your addiction?
Right now, my wife and I have been binge watching Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
Yeah.
It's got
Elijah Wood show. Yeah.
I loved the first season. We're on the second season now, and it's not quite as good, but I'm still enjoying it. I have loved Elijah Wood in everything I've seen him in, except for Lord of the Rings.
Wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Even that other that movie with Macaulay Culkin where he plays the good son.
That was I know what movie you're talking about. I haven't seen it.
Oh, you should watch that. He's great in Lord of the Rings.
See, and I think it was more the direction, because I think he's a phenomenal actor. But of course, I'm that book snob where I read all the books before they made the movie, and the Frodo in the movie is not the Frodo in the book. I think they made him look like so weak in the movie, when in the book he was determined. He put his head down. He's like, I'm gonna do this, and it was this terrible burden. But he's like, nope, I'm gonna do it anyway. And the guy in the movie, he's just always like looking at the camera like, I'm sad. This is hard.
Well, I think you definitely should have that Frodo in Fellowship.
Yeah.
But I think I speak for the books as well, that by the time you get through the middle of Two Towers, Sam's taken over, and Sam's the person who like throws Frodo on his back and is like, "We're gonna get you there." You know what I mean? Like, Sam's the hero of Lord of the Rings.
Oh, it's absolutely.
Like the trick.
In the book and in the movie.
And I think like having a eroding Frodo's an okay thing to have in the movie, because the ring did that to him.
Yeah.
I thought. Now you're saying he was weak when he showed up. It's like, Master Gandalf.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm in the minority.
With
it, but I love Elijah Wood. Not Lord of the Rings Elijah Wood, but I love Elijah Wood.
And this Dirk Gently one's weird. Weird show.
It's pretty out there. It's by BBC America, so it's got that kind of that alternative humor almost. But it's all about how they solve crime through coincidence. We've been enjoying it. It's pretty good.
I haven't seen the second season. I saw the first one. I liked it.
Yeah.
I'm in then. I'm gonna have to try it. Those are on Netflix and stuff like that.
I think it's on Hulu.
Cool. I'm in.
Yeah, it's good. What's your current addiction, Jonathan?
I have two current addictions. One is Disenchanted on Netflix. It's the Matt Groening show.
Oh yeah.
Matt Groening did it's very Futurama-ish.
Yeah.
I'm a few episodes in, and I started up a discussion on our Facebook group, Geekscape Forever, about whether or not people are enjoying it. Some people said that by the end of the season, it wasn't their thing, but it started out strong. I'm getting all sorts of different opinions on it. I'm really enjoying it, and it's a lot of fun, and I love fantasy. Fantasy is my first love, so having something that feels like a fairy tale but has that Matt Groening style to it and is very Futurama-ish, I'm super in love with. My other one would be our website coder on Geekscape, Paul, got me addicted to Marvel Strike Force, the game on my phone.
Oh yeah,
where you make like a squad of Marvel characters and you fight. Kind of real turn-based RPG style, and you can load up here's my squad of guys, and you can power them up and fight. And it's a bit of Contest of Champions style where you can have villains and heroes on your team, but you basically make a squad of 5 characters at a time to fight other people's squads. You can go through story missions. You can go through different Contest of Champions style arenas and fight other players in turn-based combat. They're not playing at the same time as you. You're just playing against the squads that they've already created.
Right.
So you can set up a defensive team for other people to fight while you fight their defensive teams and try and rank up. You can unlock all sorts of characters. It's a lot of fun. There's always tie-ins with the movies. So when Deadpool comes out, you can try and get Deadpool. Same thing with Thanos when Infinity War came out. So it's a lot of fun, and you can create clans. And I've got a clan that I have with an alliance. It's called an alliance. Probably shouldn't join clans. I've got an alliance that my website coder Paul invited me to, and it's just a fun game. And if you like real-time strategy, it's fun because there are slasher characters, blaster characters like Wolverine and Gamora who can fight hand to hand, and then there are blaster characters like Thor or the Punisher who can use lightning or bullets and stuff like that to fight. And then there are your heavies, like Colossus isn't in the game yet, but you can have Luke Cage and and the Hulk and characters like that who are like your tank characters. So there's a lot of strategy to it, and it's kind of cool to go up against combinations that other players have made. It's just like I play it all the time.
That's awesome. I might have to check that out.
It's totally free. I haven't spent $1 on it.
Nice.
That's perfect. That's exactly my budget for mobile games, so that's perfect.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I keep playing the DC one that's like that. DC Legends, I think it's called. It's free.
Similar thing.
You can always...
Squad?
Huh?
You make a squad?
Yeah. I did spend money on it, though, because I really wanted Superman. So I spent money on Superman.
Spider-Man's my favorite character. But Soups is number 2. And it's just like, man, it's incredible. As a metaphor for this country and for right and wrong and what superheroes are supposed to represent, he and Spider-Man got it.
Yeah, I agree. I love those two. Those are my favorites. But.
I mean, this is our Greek myths, man, and those were used to be moral codes for generations, and this is what we got today.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were gonna do a sponsor break and another topic, but maybe we should just do our future excitement.
Yeah, let's go into our future excitement. Jonathan, you want to kick us off? What are you looking forward to?
This episode's brought to you by Batman.
Yeah, Batman.
Batman or the hatred thereof.
Whatever you're into. Sorry, Joe. You cut out for a second, at least for me. So what'd you say?
Oh, I was just saying, Jonathan, you want to kick us off with your future excitement? What are you looking forward to?
Yes, I am facing the reality that I will ultimately have to finally buy a PS4 because that Spider-Man game looks amazing.
It really does.
It really does.
And I thought I was going to have to do this when God of War came out, and God of War got all those awesome reviews, and I wanted to play it so badly. I found myself in a place where I just didn't have the time to play video games. I will probably still be in a place where I don't have the time to play video games, but it's freaking Spider-Man. And on top of that, Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out. And a man is only so strong, you know what I mean? A man is only so strong. And those two games are I can't just sit and watch other people play those games or listen to the Geekscape Games podcast and have them talk about how awesome these games are and me not be a part of them.
Yeah.
So I'm going PlayStation 4 so I can play that Spider-Man game. And it sounds amazing. Shout out to my buddy Yuri Lowenthal, who's voicing Peter Parker Spider-Man this time around. Kept it such a secret from everybody. And then it was revealed that at E3, it was revealed he was Spider-Man. And at Comic-Con, I got him a Don't Hate Create shirt. And Yuri was so nice in wearing it on all his live streams in promoting the game. So, wow, major props.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of his. He's cool. I didn't know who he was until I saw Titan's Grave, but he's
a fantastic human being.
Yeah.
He's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, and for anybody listening, if you haven't planned on getting that new Spider-Man game, change your plans. Buy that game. It's going to be great.
Looks awesome.
Yeah. I might have to pick up the PS4 just for that game too.
But I'm saying, and then get Red Dead Redemption 2, and we'll ride, boy. We'll ride.
Yeah, I like this plan. Sounds great. What about you, Joe? What's your future excitement?
My wife just told me Atypical Season 2 is coming out on Netflix on September 7th.
Oh, nice.
And the first season was just so good. I don't know how actually accurate it is. I think it's accurate. I haven't had a lot of personal experience with autism, but the characters in it are so engaging, and it feels it's so rich and just a really good story. And I'm looking forward to season 2 on Netflix.
Heidi works with people with special needs, as a social worker. Mm-hmm. And she got me onto the first season of Atypical. I was pretty blown away by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good show.
And I think it's a pretty good depiction of people on the spectrum.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad it got a second season.
Yeah, me
I am
too.
too.
Really a heartwarming show, and hopefully it opens people's eyes a little bit. And from the outside, sometimes it can be hard to relate to those problems, and so anytime you get to kind of step inside a character like that, I think it's a good opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad it got a second season. I really enjoyed that first season. I have a nephew who has autism. I don't see him very often, so I don't really know much about it, but I think it was a great show. So,
yeah. Devin, what's your future excitement?
So, people might be kind of sick of Superman talk, but I'm really excited for the movie Reign of the Superman. It's one of DC's animated movies. So, I don't know if either of you have seen Death of Superman, also a DC animated movie.
Yeah, I did see that one.
So they're planning a 3-part series from those. So I'm assuming you're familiar, Jonathan, because I know you read comics. But
so it's like the post Superman, like the metallic Superman, or and like
yeah,
it's all those Supermen.
Yeah, because in the movie Death of Superman, they even kind of set it up. They have the characters. They tease them. They don't really straight up say who they are, but they have Steel, the Eradicator, Superboy, and Cyborg Superman.
Yeah, Cyborg Superman.
Yeah, so they tease all of those. If you know who they are, they tease all of them. And anyway, the next one's going to come out next year. It's called Reign of the Supermen.
I'll watch that.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Is Paul Jenkins taking part of it? Because he wrote those original comics.
I am not sure, but I loved Death of Superman, the DC animated movie that came out recently. I thought it was really well done.
And so now you got these. I would love to think that like the third part of the story should be Red Blue Superman. It should be electric Red Blue Superman.
That would be kind of cool. Yeah,
I mean, people look back at that and they're like, "Oh man, that was a bad idea." But I'm like, "Yeah, no, Mullet Superman was a bad idea. Red Blue Superman was just a different iteration."
Yeah.
I think people look back at it fondly and like, "Oh, remember when he was electric, blue, and red?"
Yeah.
What you gonna do? They're comics. They're stuck in their second act. You gotta mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. I am curious to see what they do, because it was. For those of you listening who haven't seen it, the Death of Superman was all the new DC animated films are set in the new 52 universe, and they did a really good job telling that storyline within the new 52 universe.
I did not make the connection that was the new 52 universe.
Yeah,
But that they just scrapped that and didn't look back. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, they've stuck with the new 52 universe. All those.
How do you keep track of all this?
DC
is so insane. It's insane. It's insane that they have like they're so into like the multiverse that it's become their multimedia. Like their transmedia approach has been multiverse.
Yeah,
insane.
Yeah, and just within their cartoon universe. But they started making all their films after Flashpoint within that universe, and they're sticking with it.
Good for them.
Yeah. But that movie was excellent. So if any of you haven't seen it, watch Death of Superman, because it was good. And I'm really looking forward to Reign of the Supermen, because that should be good.
Devin, did you see when it came out?
Huh?
Do you know when it comes out?
I don't think it has a release date yet. It just said 2019. The little teaser. I don't know. Trailer's not the right word. It had some interviews with producers and stuff. I was watching it today. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway,
Jonathan, thanks so much for being here. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you.
What's the best way for people to follow you and see what you're involved with?
I'm at Jonathan London on Twitter. I'm at Geekscape.net on Instagram. You can always find us on Facebook. Search for Geekscape. You'll find the Geekscape page. You'll probably find the Geekscape Forever private group, which I think I should make public if I can figure out how to make it public. But that's where we converse and talk about stuff. And then, of course, Geekscape.net. Pardon me, I burped a little bit. Geekscape.net is where you can find like our podcasts and our podcast network. Obviously, Geekscape is on iTunes and all that podcatching stuff.
Cool. All
right.
Well, thanks so much again. And if you guys want to reach us, you can hit us up on Twitter at Nowhere Nerds, or on Facebook at Nerds From Nowhere, or by email at thenerds@nerdsfromnowhere.com. Thanks for watching and for listening.